So in about 1 week, the worldwide download celebration will end, and I think we have gone all the bosses that we would get during this celebration that are difficult. It seems like we've gotten the final stages for the newest Dismal Future Red Zone because we, completed all the missions and we got the support memory. Along with that, the Divine Wrath and Mortal Will events, right? Which is basically this one right here, and I think this one, yeah, these two events, right? It seems like they have finished up. So because of this, I don't think that there's going to be any more stages added. Maybe they add like some infinite monster stage for this as like a part EX part, but I don't think I would assume that that's going to be a thing. So for now, I want to go ahead and talk about all the bosses that have been introduced along with the existing bosses in the game. We have a little like tier list ranking thing. They go, yeah, Vector actually made that, so shout out to Vector. We'll put a Vector's page. Vector's cool, right? funny guy. We love Vector here. Vector's fun. Okay, so let's just go ahead and talk about it. I mean, let's cover the basics and the older bosses. I'm gonna put them in D tier for now, right? So we have Broly, Metal Cooler Core, we have Sin, we have Omega. Like, these are bosses. The Cell Max Red Zones, the Gamma's Red Zones. Like, these are all bosses we already know about. So let's just go ahead and quickly talk about them first. I mean, first and foremost, let's just say Omega, I still would say, is in the hardest category of bosses. I mean, Omega Shenron himself is just a very, very difficult enemy. You're able to build up in this enemy. This is basically like the only actually most difficult fight kind of tier that is also a longer event. But this unit is very disgusting. The second phase could be really nasty, hitting you for 600k AoEs on that first attack, and then that second AoE still would hit very hard for about a little under 550k ish or so. This is a very devastating phase with the AoEs on the attacks right there. Then this unit still has 3 AoEs with all 500k damage. And then his super attack lowers your defense. He's very tanky. He attacks so much, right? This Omega is just very, very difficult. And even this right here, even though you're able to build up, this guy has no super attack cooldown, and neither does this guy. It's like this guy could super you in slot 1, either seal or stun your slot 1 unit that you have, and then they can't stack. Let's say if you're running Vegeta and Trunks, or something like that. There's a lot that's going on here with this fight that does make it very, very difficult, and many of us agree that this fight, at least before Worldwide Celebration, was the hardest fight in the game. And could you argue that this fight is still the hardest fight in the game? I would personally say no. I do think there's a harder stage now, but this fight is definitely in the realm of how hard that fight kind of is. Now Willful and Sin right here. Sin is basically just a step below that. He's basically just a weaker version of the Omega fight with different typings. It's basically the same design. So I don't really think that there's a reason to go into depth about Sin, but this unit, his AoEs hit for about 480k. He is basically the same fight, just he hits way weaker, right, than what this guy is. And it's shorter, right? It definitely is a shorter fight as well. Broly, the Metal Cooler Core, we have the Cell Max boss event. This is weird to rank the Cell Max boss event, because the thing about the Cell Max event is, we'll actually close this and let's go to this run, is that that it has the special units, but this event is still one of the harder hitting events in the game. And again, 24.27% super attack chance, could do 2 a turn with 6 cooldown. His attack's at 530k, and that's basically from turn 3 or 4, something like that. He has a locking, and his super attack hits for 1.85 million, which is on par with some of these recent red zones, right? Which, it tells you how strong the red zones have been. But okay, well, Genshin is being funny right here. I was updating Genshin on the side, but it's just, let me take care of that real quick. Alright, took care of that. My bad. Genshin jump scare, dude. I guess this guy maybe doesn't really attack as much, but the 6 cooldown is nasty, dude. And you can't nullify his super attack either. Compared to some of these other bosses you may be able to nullify, this unit, nope, you cannot nullify him. So that's the thing about this Cell Max. I would say I still I'm gonna put him at A with Sin. The reason why is because he has the weakness, right? Superhero, what it was, I think it's like the superhero category units have a provide a weakness to him. There's certain categories like we don't see. There's not the character button is here, like special pose, artificial life form, and then like the superhero characters also do more damage, like Orange Piccolo, Ultimate Gohan, and it just kind of does nerf this event. But this event, in terms of its stats, is just so much like this event in terms of pure stats is harder than this guy. I would say, like you could argue that, but I think the weakness that this unit has is just a little, like your Orange Piccolo team obviously just absolutely destroys it. People ran like Orange Piccolo with like half a liter skill and destroyed it. So that's the issue, is that this event has special characters, while no other event here actually does have the special characters like that, really. So I think that's why it kind of brings that down. And for the rest, we'll just fill Broly here. We'll just do this here. I guess the red zone cell max, and it's like I feel like all these are like in the same ish tier. The gammas, maybe the gamma red zone isn't really as strong. I don't, like the gamma red zone is difficult, but I don't really think it's like on. Well, there's two enemies super class. I guess we'll put it here, but I'm not sure. I think you maybe could even argue it's like a tier lower, but maybe not. But still. I think these all in a tier are here, but now we could finally get to the new worldwide download celebration bosses. There's so many monster bosses. Goodness, okay. So we can go ahead and close this. I guess we'll keep Omega up just in case we need him. We can close this. Broly, no dodging, but again, we all kind of agree Broly's here, like in that kind of range. I don't think Broly would be on the tier of Cell Max or Sin. Medical or core, we don't really have to talk about. Gammas, we don't have to talk about, or some max. So let's start talking about these right here, the main meat of the video here. How hard is Cell? I would put Cell in this A tier, I think, actually. He's like up here. This Cell is just, he's a turn one disgusting boss, right? I mean, he hits you, again, the attack raise is not like actually like calculating here, I believe. So he hits for like, I think the number is like 1.5 to 1.6 million, and that's just like instantly. He has a 20% chance to super. Now usually I notice like the bosses that like super you like slot one instantly, it's usually bosses that have like 20 to like 25% chances to super, even like around like 17% chance. Like a lot of times those bosses with these really high super attack percentage chances, they just super attack you this right off the gate. So this unit super attacking you right off the gate, raising his attack, by the way, from 490k, that shoots up to like around, like I think it's like the number is like 600, like 60 to 90k or something after super attacks, which for turn one is absolutely disgusting, by the way. Now to be fair, he doesn't attack as much as some of these other bosses, and he's only turn one and one phase, so you can load up on a bunch of int units to like kind of surround this guy, but he's still very tough. He's still a very, very, very nasty boss. Like I would say this unit, like this boss would give people more difficulty than like Broly. You can kind of build up, Medical or Core, you can kind of build up, right? And it's like at the end, he hits harder than them, like on his normal attacks and his super attack, right? So that's the thing there. And yeah, this is just a very, very nasty little boss. I don't think, like, if I was gonna rank him on tier like with Omega, I don't really think I would like to put him on Omega's tier. I would say is he harder than Sin? I don't, he's like, I feel like he's closer to Sin in difficulty than Omega. Well, let me know what you guys think. Maybe I'm capping, but like closer like Cell Max and Sin in difficulty than Omega is, I feel like, is what I'm thinking right now. Now we have the Zamasu boss. Well, let's talk about the Rose boss, right? This is the Rose boss right here, which is the Goku Black boss specifically. Now, this boss is just kind of just straight up tough, right? I mean, there's nothing really special about him necessarily. He's just a hard-hitting boss that's 2 phases and short, right? I mean, turn 1 instantly 550k damage on the super attack. Hits you for 1.5 million. Does not have an attack raise. Cooldown relatively low, like 5 cooldown. Like if you take a look at the cell cooldown, I think it's what, 7 attacks, right? So like he can't, like if this cell like supers you as the very last super like attack in the turn, then he can't super you the next turn because he only has 7 actions, is what they're called, right? But this Goku Black could super you at the end of the turn and then do it again at the end of the next turn, right? Stuff like that. He only attacks 6 times, which is helpful, but you know, he still hits you very hard, even though he only attacks those 6 times. Then the Rose boss, you know, he could raise his attack very high. I think since it's a 30% raise, he hits for like 800k normals, right? If I'm not mistaken, or like around there, which is again just it's pretty nasty, right? Hitting you for almost 800k normals basically. The super attack hits you for like 1.8 million. The percentage, I feel like compared to like the cell, and obviously you can kind of see with the percentage, right? This Goku Black has not like instantly like slot 1 before I attack at all, super attack me at all. That's like not really too common of occurrence with this Goku Black compared to what I've seen with the cell. But it can happen, and I've seen him super me in slot 1 a lot of times. But yeah, he's just a very basic, difficult boss. But like, could I put him like above like above Sin or this first from Cell? Like he's clearly more difficult. I don't know. I think this Goku Black's difficult. I would say, I mean, you could argue Cell's harder, I feel like, right? I think because this Goku Black face is obviously it's still very, very difficult, but I feel like Cell's kind of a little more like cheesy kind of with what he's doing. Even though it's 1 turn phase, he also does attack more. He does hit harder once he gets his attack raise, which is very common. It's just an instant attack raise, right? So I think that's the issue there compared to this Goku Black boss. And while obviously in this Rose form he does it harder, you are able to have some of the units like prepared ahead of time. Now he does have a nasty type coverage though, which you could argue like, you know, physical units you want to bring here, but then this STR phase really counters them. So I don't know. I'm thinking like this. Yeah, I'm thinking like this right here. And then let's talk about the Zamasu fight. I would say the Goku Black and Zamasu fight is and like the Omega range though. Compared to these two, I think that there is definitely a clear difference in this Zamasu fight specifically. I mean, the Zamasu portion himself, again, he's not really too bad. He does have a 0 cooldown on his super though. You can't nullify a super attack, right? Compared to like this Goku Black, he's a Ki Blast super, right? Instantly, so you can. There's a lot of characters that can nullify Ki Blast supers. This you can't do that. So it's pretty hard for turn 1 boss. 500k normals. That's very difficult. Now he doesn't really attack too much, but this Goku Black and Zamasu portion is just disgusting because he can super attack twice, 6 cooldown. He still has 9 attacks during the turn. His attack stat is higher than what this guy is, but he's also supering twice. He seals you. He has a 25% chance to super. He raises attack, and that does raise attack in each super attack he does. So the attack buff can apply twice. So you can hit for like almost 1 million damage on normals near the end of the rotation for your floater unit. And his super attack damage would increase as well. It just... this is just a very nasty, unfair boss with the ceiling and everything. This boss is just very gross. And again, the situation is 25% chance super, basically 24% chance. Like, he just supers you instantly, and then you get sealed by your first slot 1 character. And then you're just like, oh, okay, well, that's cool, right? You know? And then he hits the rotation of the rotation, so it's harder. So like if your slot 1 unit also wants to super attack and they're not like dodging the super, it could be an issue. I think for sure. I would say this boss is just clearly harder than these two though. Yeah, I feel like that's the case. But let me know what y'all think, right? Maybe you think I'm super having these two here. These bosses are still like relatively new, so maybe in the future I will change my mind on some of these. But that's just kind of what I'm thinking here. I think Fusion Zamasu is definitely like harder. I would say this Fusion Zamasu boss is finally getting to him. Probably the hardest fight in the game. Because it's so stupid. Yeah, it's one AoE, and then it's usually like just right in the front of the rotation, and it's a turn one AoE that hits for 500k. It's just very unfair. Just very unfair to like so many of these characters nowadays that build up. Like, let's take a look at all these recent cards, right? And then we can include Easy A's as well. No, we can include Easy A's in here, right? I forgot. There's a way to include Easy A's, I think. But it's fine. I guess I can't really see it. Anyways, so I mean, like, you're a build-up unit. You're a build-up unit. You want to build up. You have reduction, so it's different. Like, these two aren't really build-up units like that, right? I mean, you're a unit that has to take an attack and like super attack a little bit, right? You need a super attack first right here. Even Bulma would prefer to super attack for her best defensive abilities, or like build up some reduction. You're a build up unit. Build up, build up, build up, build up, build up. Oh, we're on the global version. Are we? Are we on the global version? Because why are you after them? Am I crazy? I don't think I'm crazy. Hold up. I'm pretty sure I was on the global version. No, I'm just insane. Okay, I mean, these two are a little better because they guard early on, but like, you know, they're both still build up units. So like Ultimate Gohan and Piccolo, maybe the first attack will do a little bit of damage, and then it's just getting lower and lower as like so many of these units are built up. And if you take take a look at the T-Wars that have coming out, right? Let's see. I mean, Trunks, he just straight up could die, right? I mean, that's Trunks. Not really a build up unit, but he can straight up die. You're build up. You want to build up, you want to build up, you want to super attack first, right? It's just, we look at all these characters that have been releasing, and all of them want to super attack, or, you know, attack to get some reduction built up or something, or stats. And this unit's like, nah, you're not going to do that. We're going to hit you for like a 300, 400, 500k normal, die, right? I find that AoE is an issue. The super attack itself, actually, it's not really that hard hitting of a super attack, right? If you look at Zamasu, right? I mean, it hits as hard as this boss, right? But you could also nullify this because it's a Ki Blast super. And he only lowers attack, right? So it's not really like that big of a deal. It doesn't raise attack or anything. One other annoying thing about this first boss is that if your units do like under 1.5 million damage, which I think is a relatively like solid number if you're getting like some additional super attacks and stuff like that, you just end up doing 0 damage, or I feel like type doesn't manage, right? So that's dumb. But this guy even like locks out like the blue fusions from this fight because they can't dodge until they actually attack, right, in slot 3. And then this boss is just stat monster. Right? Yeah, that's all there is. He's a stat monster, relatively tanky. But he hits for like over like 2 mil damage, I think. And then he raises his attack for the turn and his normal state for like almost 1 million. Like, yeah, that's hard. He's just straight up just hits you really hard. Just really hard. And that's like, you know, a boss you could see in like turn 3 or turn 4. It just very nasty. Now we have some of these other bosses here. I almost want to say like the Vegito Blue boss is like up here in terms of difficulty. Like, you have to use different setups, but I would say, yeah, maybe like that, then like this here, and then I feel like this Trunks event was very difficult, and then I feel like this Moss event probably was here as well, because like, I don't know, I'm thinking something like this. Maybe you can move this Moss event up. It's very flexible. I would say these I'm comfortable with, but like these, could you say you can move some of these fights up to this tier? Yeah, if you're like, I think Cell is really difficult, I want him up here. Sure. I think this Cell Max event should be higher up here. Sure. This, maybe not this one. I feel like this one kind of stays a little here. Like, this one wasn't too bad. It was just kind of annoying. It took a little bit longer. I mean, could you move this down? Even maybe, but, I mean, we could just take a look at the stats of the Divine Wrath bosses real quick before we wrap up again. I also have to do Chain Battle in like 8 minutes, but like we could see Final Judgment, Supreme Fusion, Divine Wrath, Mortal Will. I mean, this one is interesting because he has like a set attack pattern, right? Like he's going to do this exact pattern in his actions. He could double super you. He could lower your defense, which is annoying. But I didn't really find it as difficult as some of these other fights maybe. This one is very difficult because he hits you just so hard and he could just like clear you out instantly, and you need to run very specific units. It's not like they're like, you know, units that are advantage against him, but you know, like they're units that just lower attack, right? The one thing is this guy can be attack lord, but like I mean, it doesn't change the fact that turn one he supers you, and then he raises his attack by 50%. He could double super you, and then it's like he's hitting for like over 1 million in his normals, and his super attacks hit for like almost 2 million damage. And it just very nasty. In fact, it's more than 1 million he hits on his normals because it's a 50% attack raise. I mean, if you double supers, he hits you for like what? I think that's 1.4 million normals without any attack debuffs. It's nasty, and he attacks so much, right? I feel like this blue Vegeta boss is very, very difficult. The Divine Wrath stage right here is also just like a turn one big damage dealer. Very annoying, especially with the interest of emotion too, if you want to consider that. But I mean, 2 million damage just like slot one instantly before any of your units build up or attack. It's very difficult, right? He doesn't attack too much though. And then this Trunks fight, I would say, is also harder than this. I feel like these two fights were harder than like this Zamasu fight, the other one. Because this is also like a phase change, so you can't run just like a mono team. There are situations where you run mono physical and you can clear this first phase, sure. But I mean, he hits you so hard from turn one. And then, like, he does 2.3 million damage when you're here with this Sword Hope Trunks, which is, I think it's like, is it just like numbers-wise the hardest hitting super attack in the game? It might be. And his normal 670k normals is just like, it's still very nasty. 580k normals turn one with this guy is also just disgusting, right? So it's just, yeah, these fights are just very difficult, but, I don't know. This is not really supposed to be like, oh, this fight is harder than this fight 100%. Like, it is kind of general-ish rankings to give you guys a general idea of, like, how hard I find these bosses personally, or at least how hard I found them in my own playthroughs of them. But let me know what you guys think. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.